many people, many students are afraid of studying English. I hear that all the time. They are afraid that they will not manage, that something will go wrong on the way, and that they will not be successful. It doesn't have to be so. Whatever you study, you have to understand that, of course. You have to know what your goal is, but you have to know that you can divide it into little chunks and then you can glue them together. Language is such a structure, such a construction that can be divided into little chunks, but then it is put together as one big structure, which we turn to when we want to communicate with other people. In this episode, I would like to share my knowledge with you on speculation in the past, like modal verb speculation in the past, because it is a thing that usually proves to be a problem for many students, but I will try to show you that it doesn't have to be so. And my advice with any grammar issue, any vocabulary issue that is there, is that you need to see the bigger picture. Because if you just stay with those little chunks, you will never put them together. Of course, as we begin, we need to turn to something that is easy to grasp and easy to understand. But then you have to see that it makes this one big picture, one big structure, one big construction. And the modal verbs, like speculation in the past, it is a very useful element of grammar, but usually, unfortunately, a bit troublesome because most of you find it relatively easy to learn the basic tenses, but as we go further into this forest of studying the language, it just turns out that there are those elements that prove to be a problem. Whatever you study, you need to have some reference to it. You need to have some element that will help you understand what you are actually studying. And my advice is, when you want to study modal verbs in the past, when you want to study speculation in the past, my advice is to turn to a song by Elvisa Presleya. There are those of you who know the guy, and there are those of you who have never listened to him. I well understand that. Some of you would say that Elvisa Presleya is forever alive. I myself would say that this is not true, but actually this is not the point. What he left us like this, a great collection of songs, a great collection of lovely videos. And for our purposes, for the purpose of studying the language, there are songs with lyrics, and these lyrics will help you to understand the element, the grammar element. Songs they can become earworms. So this thing that will stay in your ear and you will come back to it every time you want to say something. A song that can serve for us as a earworm, the earworm performed by Elvisa Presleya is always on my mind. Why I chose the song? Because in many elements of the song, in many lines of the song, you get the phrases coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, what he could have done, or what he should have done, or what he might have done, but it actually never happened. I'm not going to sing the song to you right now, but I advise you to listen to it in your free time, and I advise you to read the lyrics. This is a song in which Elvisa Presleya is saying sorry, possibly to his wife, definitely to some woman that he loves, that he could have done so many things, but he never took the time. He should have loved the woman a little bit more, but he didn't pay attention. He could have been home more often. He should have said so many wonderful things to her, but he actually made her feel second hand. Every time you listen to the song, you will hear these expressions, the ones that I have just mentioned. I mean, I could have done that, I should have done that, I might have done that. If I remember right, if my memory serves me right, Elvisa Presleya doesn't use might, but he uses I should have or I could have. Please pay attention to what I'm saying right now, that you need to remember not the word could, but could have, not the word should, but should have. And then you have this whole chunk to which you would add this element, to which you would add the past participle. So could have done, should have met, should have called, for instance. And as I said, this is this little element, like a little chunk of grammar, when you want to make the negation, you would make the negation with shouldn't or couldn't, but have done will stay safe. I mean, you will not perform any changes to this structure. So if you want to build a sentence that is the negative one, you would say, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I shouldn't have said that to him because I offended him. Or you would say, I couldn't have. Like, when you want to speculate and when you want to say that this is just impossible, like he couldn't have done that all by himself, because we know that he never does, for instance. If you want to make it stronger, the meaning of the sentence, if you want to make it stronger, you would say, he can't have done that. So he can't have stolen the money, or he can't have prepared that on his own, because he's never capable of doing so. On the other hand, if you are sure that something has happened, you would say, he must have done that. Like, you are sure. Of course, we can never be sure unless we see something, unless we experience something. But when we speculate, that's why this episode, this chunk of grammar, is called speculation. So when we speculate, we can only be sure that something has happened, or we can be sure that something hasn't happened. So let me repeat that once again. If you are sure that something has happened, you predict that. You would say that he must have prepared that because I asked him to do so, or he can't have done that because we know that he never does. And as I said, the negation goes to the modal verb, and then you leave this have done, have said on its own. The negation is never there. But as I said, that you need to see a bigger picture. So these models in the past, like speculation in the past, it is a little chunk of the language. But mind you, if you think about conditionals, and here comes the magic part. So when you study conditionals in the past, I advise you to turn to the grammar book, or to start studying the conditionals. Because usually what we do is we introduce them separately. So there are conditionals, like there's zero, first, second, third. Then we have these models in the past. But you need to see that as a whole. I will now turn to conditionals a little bit. And as I said, we have the zero, the first, the second, and the third. So if I count correctly, that would make them 4 altogether. We have also mixed conditionals, but I will go to that in a second. Mind you, please remember that when we think about conditionals, and this also proves to be a problem for many students, that when we study conditionals, very often we, or you as students, you tell me that the trouble is that you don't know which of them refers to what. I mean, what time zone. And please remember that the zero, the first, and the second one, they all refer to the present. And the only one that refers to the past is the third conditional. And now please listen to a sentence that goes like that. If I had known that you were ill, I would have visited you at hospital. Look at the other part. It is would have visited. So this is exactly what we talked about when we were referring to the song by Elvisa Presleya, Always on My Mind. So he said, I could have done that, but I didn't. I should have done that, but I didn't. And in the third conditional, you do exactly the same thing. So you say what would have happened or what could have happened, but it actually didn't happen. And of course, we can also perform negations there, right? So if I had been you, yes, or you. If we give advice to somebody, we can say, like, you shouldn't have done that. Yes. So if I were you, in my opinion, I would say that you shouldn't have done that. Like, you shouldn't have shouted because you offended him, or you shouldn't have eaten so much because then you had a bad night and you couldn't sleep at night. The mixed conditionals, on the other hand, they only and always makes 2 conditionals. That will be second conditional and third conditional. So you talk about some activities that happen in the past and what kind of influence they have on the present. We can come back to the sentence I have just introduced about food. It happens to us sometimes, I believe, because we eat a little bit too much and then we cannot sleep at night. So we say, I shouldn't have eaten so much the other day because today, yes, I feel so bad. So I shouldn't have done that. That would make this comment on the reality. To make a full sentence, like in the mixed conditional, you can say, if I were you, I wouldn't have eaten so much for supper, and that's why you feel so bad today. Very popular sentences with should. They are sentences about studying English, actually, because I hear that oftentimes, that I should have studied English when I was a student, or I should have studied English when I was at school, when I was at university, and this is how many people present their regrets, because if they had started, mind you, referring back to the third conditional, if they had studied the language, they could speak it today, they could speak it very well. And here we are building the mixed conditional. So the third conditional in the first part and the second conditional in the second part. So if I were to revise all the bits of advice that I have given you, all the bits of information that I have presented to you about models in the past and about conditionals, please always put them together. Please always look at them as one thing. So you study models in the past and then you look at third conditional, because it is the same thing. And then when you start speaking the language, you realize that you have ready-made, you have ready sentences that you can produce, and you are not stressed out. This brain, I talked about that in another episode. Yeah, the brain is not panicking because you know that you are actually using a structure that you recognize very well. If you want to study any other element of grammar, do the same. So see the whole structure of the language, like a little chunk, but then have a look how it makes the whole structure together. And it is that simple, actually. And if you do that, speaking English will come naturally to you.